485. Yeah, that's torque. God Lord. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm looking, boss. What's good, fam? Welcome back to another episode of Katana Garage. Today in the shop, I got a BMW 545i from the year 2004. This car has an issue where the clutch has failed. It is a manual transmission. I'm going to show you guys how to go ahead and remove the transmission as per to do the job in your own garage. So you know how we do. We stay greasy. Let's get greasy. Okay, so now we're here with the 4.4 liter N62 naturally aspirated V8 motor by BMW, and the motor is in pretty good condition, I'd say. We're not doing much to the motor today. We're gonna be doing most of the work underneath the car. So let me just take you underneath the car and show you a little brief synopsis of the stuff that we're gonna be having to remove. So let's go. Okay, now that we're underneath the car, the first thing that you're gonna want to do is starting by removing the exhaust. So on all BMWs, as far as I know, any type of work you're gonna do underneath the car, whether it be having to do with the transmission, you're gonna have to take off the entire exhaust, as it is one complete piece. Now it bolts up here to the first catalytic converters, and bolts up here by a hanger, and I believe there's a hanger here that hangs to the transmission, and another hanger here. So you're just gonna want to remove these bolts and get it out. So the first step you want to do is go ahead and remove these 10 millimeter nuts from off of the exhaust flange to the catalytic converter, and I'm gonna do that right now. So you're gonna go ahead and grab your 10 millimeter deep socket and get that out. Might want to use an extension too. If you have swivels in handy, you're gonna need those. Also, I guess this is not a 10 millimeter. Looks like a 12 millimeter. My bad. Got a 12 on it. Yeah, that's a 12. Got my extension. Go ahead and sometimes they just bind themselves together and the impact won't be able to get it. So at this point, you just get yourself your ratchet, a little extension bar, some leverage, and get them loose. Take your time, however, because you can crack them. Sometimes you might want to wet them up with some WD-40, and I'm just gonna do that right now, or see if I can bypass that. Yeah, they're coming off fairly easy, so yeah, then I'll just work my way with the impact. Yes, so not too bad. This is gonna be your first step. I'm just gonna whack them off with the impact. Like that. And that. So for those of you who never took apart a BMW before, I would recommend labeling these bolts in a sandwich bag as you go along. So you remove a bolt from a certain part, you label it. For me, I take apart BMWs quite often, so I kind of know where everything goes. See, now you got the exhaust partially removed. It's on this hanger, so once you remove it from the hanger, remove these clips. If you come back here with the camera, you remove this plate. This plate will allow you to drop the exhaust and disconnect it from the hangers down there where I'm shining my light. So for the whole job, you're going to be working from front to back of the car. One thing with BMWs, you do have to disassemble damn near the whole car to do any type of work on it. So I'm not going to show you guys entirely how I take it apart, but I just do a run through again. You remove it here from the catalytic converters forward, and then you remove this this plate. Remove it from the hanger mounted to the transmission, and the two hangers at the back. Well, for this instance, it's only one, since they have a modified exhaust. So it's only going to be one hanger down at the back down there. So yeah, so in the next pane of video, I will be showing you how to remove or prep for removal of the drive shaft. So yeah. Okay, so now we got the exhaust fully removed pretty much from front to back. You just go ahead and set it off to the side like I did. Just set it onto the floor, so it's gonna be one piece. And here's what I mean by the aftermarket modification. On a stock exhaust is gonna have two of those compared to just one. So yeah. And yeah, so now we're gonna be removing the heat shield. So it's gonna be a series of, I think these are 8mm bolts right here. So it's gonna be a lot of them. So we're gonna remove the entire heat shield, and I'm just gonna do that right now. All right, so now we got the heat shield disassembled. Now we have access to the entire drive shaft, which runs from here, bolts up here with these two bolts, bam and bam, and then goes all the way down here. You're gonna want to be making sure it's in neutral, and that you can spin it, because you're gonna need to spin these to gain access to break those free. So the next step, we're gonna be taking this off, taking these bolts off. Be sure to mark them and their positions. Then we're gonna be removing these. So there's a series of 6. There's 3 that go in and 3 that come out. So we're gonna be removing that, and then we'll move to the transmission. The transmission will be about ready to start getting out. So let's go ahead and remove this here drive shaft right now. Okay, so now we've got the drive shaft completely removed. And now the next step after you get the drive shaft removed is to disconnect the shift assembly. So we're gonna be moving to disconnecting these pins here that mount the assembly to the gear shifter on the transmission. Also, we're gonna wanna remove any electrical connection as far as this harness here. If it were an automatic transmission, this harness would be coming all the way back here to the computer's mechatronics system is what it's called. But seeing that this is a manual, it doesn't have a mechatronics because it has manual input. So yeah, let's just move to do just that. Removing the electrical harness, making sure we're clear of any electrical harness on the transmission. Removing the electrical connections on the O2 sensors, and removing the shift assembly so we can be able to tilt the transmission, gain access to the bolts in the top. All right, let's just do that. All right, now we're here. So before you go ahead and attempt to remove the transmission, given your shift assembly is disconnected, these are what the pins look like after they come out. This is what the pin looks like that mounts the shift assembly on both sides. So ultimately, it literally just slides into the groove that way, like that, and then rotated and locked in a position. These tabs kind of squeeze over the middle. So that's how those work. Go ahead, remove those. Make sure your clutch slave cylinder is disconnected. So I got my hose, my slave cylinder hose disconnected. That's my hydraulic pressure hose for my clutch. Also, I got my shift bracket assembly disconnected. Just remove the pin. It's kind of a circlip. Remove that, slide it out of the housing, leave that dangling. Then you want to go ahead and support the transmission with a jack. Just say I got my jack under there. You want to support that like that, however you rig it up. And then I just went ahead and put a jack stand right here to give it some extra support. Then when you jack it up, then you want to remove the bolts that mount this bracket to the frame of the car. And now by tilting the transmission, you will see that we have gained access to all the way in there where the bolts are at. I don't know if you can see that. Well, I'm talking all the way up there. There we go. Let's see. Yeah, so anyway, you get the drift. So here's one other bolt all the way down there. If you could follow the extension all the way down there. So that's where, here's another bolt there and one there where the extension's at. Those are the bolts that you're trying to get to, and they're all around the transmission. There's another one over there, one there, and they're on both sides. So you're gonna wanna try to get those bolts on both sides, over there and over there. And yeah, so I'm in the process of taking out the last bolts on both sides. I'm gonna go underneath the transmission and remove the 2 bolts that are mounting on the bottom of the transmission there. I'm gonna move those and proceed to taking out at least disconnecting the transmission from the engine, which will leave the clutch exposed. So let's just do that right now. Alrighty. So at this point, we got the transmission removed. Right here, this is what it looks like. So ultimately, I'm gonna be replacing this release bearing here, and this is how the clutch pressure plate gets its force. It's contacting force from the pilot pivot fork to the release bearing back to the clutch pressure plate, which is on the engine. So ultimately, I'm going to be removing this, cleaning up the surfaces, re-greasing the contact points, removing this release bearing. The release bearing / throwout bearing will not be getting any grease on the contact surface. You want it dry. You could put a little grease, not too much though, not overly excessive amount. So yeah, so I'm gonna be removing the pilot pivot fork, removing the release bearing, putting a new release bearing, re-greasing the pivot station, as well as greasing the spline on the transmission's output shaft. So, or input shaft, sorry. And then here is what the clutch looks like on the car. So we're going to be removing the pressure plate. We're going to be leaving the flywheel on the car. And we're going to be removing this factory clutch plate that's in here. And it looks to be like, it's like totally disintegrated. I can't even see it in there. But we're going to pull it apart, get it out, and see what the clutch looked like in there. And yeah, so we're going to start by working in a diamond kind of like pattern. So you're going to go top, bottom, left to right, the corners, and then you pull it off. And then for this, when you're going to put it back together, it's pretty much a reverse of taking it apart. You're just gonna, backtrack everything that you did leading up onto this point, but in reverse order. Yeah, so when you're reassembling the pressure plate, you're gonna be using an alignment tool to line up the clutch. I'm gonna be showing you how I replace the clutch, just so you get a little idea of how I do it. So let's just remove this old clutch, freshen up the new parts, the pilot pivot bearing like I talked about, the release bearing, the pivot fork, and throw some Loctite on new bolts and get them installed with the new pressure plate. And yeah, so let's do that. Okay, so we got the pressure plate removed, we got the clutch disc removed, and we were hoping that we would be able to get by with just reusing the flywheel, but based on the condition of the flywheel, the integrity of the flywheel is totally compromised. All these spots here that you're seeing are burn marks caused from a heavy, rigorous application of the clutch. So you can see where it's almost like a bluish, a bluish kind of like, tinge to it, and that those just indicate hot spots. And pretty much this flywheel is not going to be able to be reused. We're going to have to replace it. This is also a dual mass flywheel. How you can tell it is a dual mass flywheel is that it actually rotates first before it actually engages the engine. So it's got a little bit of give in it, just to pretty much promote a little bit smoother application while you're in motion. So that's what a dual mass flywheel does. On a single mass flywheel, there would be no rotation. Everything would just be one solid hub. So I don't know if I can put my hand so you can see it, but you can see how it rotates before it actually engages. Then it locks up and the whole assembly rotates as a unit. But with a dual mass, it rotates a little first, there's a little give, and then the whole mechanism turns with itself. So I just wanted to go ahead and include this in the video as far as kind of a diagnostic as far as to troubleshoot, determine whether or not the clutch flywheel is reusable or not. In this case, this flywheel is not reusable. It is badly burnt. The surface material is pretty much gone. Like if you zoom in, you can see like there's some little lines right here where it should be like grooves, and then there's a hot spot here, and then there's the grooves right here, and then the hot spot's like gone. So yeah, there's a lot of hot spots. So that flywheel is gone. Also, take you over here to the pressure plate and clutch. I mean, it looks to be pretty fine how the pressure plate looks. I mean, the pressure plate, it still has meat on it. Look at that. That is a lot of padding. So I wouldn't rule out this. You could reuse this if you wanted to. And this obviously wouldn't be able to reuse it because it is very much identical to the flywheel with a lot of excessive burning and scoring. So most definitely the issue on this BMW is going to be, in my theory, the pressure plate is failed, as well as the flywheel is failed. Surprisingly, the clutch disc is still holding up. So just wanted to show you guys a little bit of that. So next in the video, I'll be showing you how to remove the flywheel. Well, I'm just going to remove it as you use these E-Torx inside. There are deep E-Torxes in these holes, and you remove it, take it off, and put on a new one, and so forth and so forth. So let's just do that.